I'm Mickey Davidson, better known as Mickey D. I teach dance, swing dance to musicians here at the Louis Armstrong Jazz Camp, and this is my fourth year, 2010. Well, by New Orleans being one of the major bases of the jazz development styles and voicing, the children from this area have inherited a rich cultural foundation and a responsibility for continuing the tradition that has been set here. Well, working with Norma, and I also work with Frankie. I'm one of the last of Frankie Manning, who is the male counterpart of Norma Miller, with different styles. I'm one of the few, or some of the last of the people who got a chance to learn this style of dance in this traditional form by hanging out. So there were certain clubs you went to during the week and you danced. The culture of this dance is someone asked you to dance. So usually when you first start hanging out, the people who are just average dancers asked you to dance. And people like Norma, Mama Lou Parks, Frankie, they would watch. And as you got better, the better dancers. And it took me a year before Frankie asked me to dance. Well, Norma had a group. And with Norma's group, I saw her in 1983 at the Village Gate. And it was because of the big band director, Sun Ra, that I was looking for them, because I used to dance with Sun Ra's orchestra, and I used to dance the Fletcher Henderson tunes. And he started calling out the names of the dancers. So I knew, just as there are standard songs in this jazz idiom, they're standard dances, and only the elders knew it. So that's how I found Norma, doing one of her shows. And then I asked if I could dance with the group. And I had heard she didn't like trained dancers, so I didn't tell her that I was a modern dancer and that I had 2 degrees in dance, because she wouldn't talk to me. But the bottom line was, I also worked with the jazz musicians, a lot of avant-garde musicians. So I just went in there like, I just want to dance. And I had to start from the bottom. You know, you take everybody home, you go get the coffee, you go get cigarettes, then you watch. And then one day when somebody don't show up, they say, okay, you've been watching long enough. And that's exactly what Norma did. You've been watching long enough. And so she took her scarf off her neck, wrapped it around my hips. I had my shoes on, and we were at Roseland Ballroom with the Count Basie Orchestra. So I got baptized real quick. And I have maintained Norma's basic choreography through the group Savoy Swingers in New York. So anytime she comes into New York, she has a group of professional dancers that can do her stuff. And I tell the young dancers, if Norma likes you and she thinks you got potential, she'll cuss you out, and then she'll start teaching by showing you, like, she's very good choreographically with syncopations inside of the music. So you got to really understand where the bottom is, or else she'll go off. So there's a couple of breaks we always have. If she don't like you, she don't say nothing. She just says, and she sits down on the couch and looks at television or something. That means don't bother. So all my dancers know, if Norma comes in town, they have to be good enough to get cussed out, and then she'll give. Basically, that means you got to do your homework. You have to be at a certain level within your craft and in the understanding of the music and also the technique of the dance. So in this dance, kicking high might not be the best thing to do just because you can kick high. It might be about kicking long. And Norma will tell you about those things. So working with Norma, I say that is my PhD work, sitting at the foot of the elders, because you not only learn the steps, it's through the steps that you understand the culture of the time, the values of the time, and that's what makes that time period very interesting for me, is because even though there was segregation, the people of that time period did not allow the political atmosphere to define their humanity. So they understood what they had to do socially to get over and not get lynched, but that did not define who they were as humans, and that's why, to me, the Savoy flourished, because it was in the black neighborhood, black people doing it, white people were allowed to come, but it was where they had their voice and their ability to be as human, and that's why the people looked pretty over there, and that's why the standard of dance was high, because the people had a very high standard of their own humanity. That's the most natural thing. Teaching dance to young musicians is natural for me, because most of my professional life as a dancer has been on bandstands. And there's a tradition, there are a lot of musicians who dance. Ray Nance danced, Mukunda Ken McIntyre danced. So all the Sunrise people dance, so if they didn't have any dancers. So for me, that is the place that is very natural, because I can talk about phrasing, I talk about tempo, I talk about the cleanliness, the musicality of their footwork as they tell the story. So they might all become very good social dancers because they get a chance to touch the girls and the girls could touch them. But even better, they'll be better musicians because they'll feel phrasing, they'll feel the tempo. We just finished about how to retard your movement so that you don't drop it, but you got to pull it out just like you got to pull notes out sometime in order to express that moment. So for me, a lot of people say I might be a dancer, but I talk like a musician, because I learned dance steps in a dance studio, but I learned my artistry, my sense of improvisation, and composition from musicians, from great musicians. To me, he's somebody that he's just part of the tradition, and I know I've been linked with him because many years ago, when they were having an administrative changeover in the Louis Armstrong house, I was commissioned to create a piece about Louis Armstrong through music and dance. I think it was part of a Smithsonian traveling exhibition. And at that time, I had an opportunity to go to his house before they made it into a museum. And the lady who was like Miss Lucille's companion, she was still there. And Miss Phoebe gave me some of his diary notes so I could understand. And so I had to study Mr. Armstrong in order to do this commissioned piece. But it also made me have a lot of respect for him because he's one of our giants who stayed in the community. So his presence is the role model unto itself. So that when you're a little kid, you walk outside and you see somebody who travels the world, it gives you that feeling like you can travel the world too. There's hope, you know, and his house now, even in Queens, when you go past it, it feels like a shrine. It's the manifestation of hope, possibility, and opportunity. And that's what I tried to perpetuate in his music. His music was happy music, but his music also told stories about certain realities that we as musicians, as Rahsaan Roland Kirk says, we are Eulipians, the poets and the artists. We travel the airports and the bus station giving our duty-free gifts to the world. So that's mine. Well, what I enjoy also about this jazz camp are kids repeat. My work in education, arts and education at this point, I get adopted by communities so that I can keep coming back. I can grow with the students. The students, after a while, get used to hearing me and knowing how I think, what I expect of them. So what's wonderful, like this year is my 4th year, there's a group of children who they're already starting from a higher level, so that they're bringing along the people who are just starting this year. So we're moving forward. My expectations, and you can only do that when they're good kids. when they're good people. So it's a good community because the parents are sending us or sending me, but they're sending the camp good people, little people. The camp faculty is good. The leadership is good. So it's a very, I don't mind working hard. And you got to work hard to give, especially when you got once a year. But it's always good when you can see a little bit, because as a teacher, I think you plant a seed, you don't always see the harvest. But every so often you get a chance to see a couple of sprouts going, so you know it's worth keep cultivating.